cool idea. I just think they might be a little skeptical, but it does make sense. All of the people that were into those games are at that M rating level now, like they would enjoy it, probably exploring and not being limited to that team rating.
Welcome back, everybody, to Beers and Boss Battles for episode 8. We are already here. Today, we have Sanjay with us, a returning challenger, to talk about the games that we want to see rebooted. We got a really, really dope list for you guys. We're going to talk about some cool stuff, some of the experiences we've had with those games, and why we think they should come back. Before all else, we're going to get into what we're drinking. We feel like that's the necessary step to this whole process. So, Sanj, go for it. Sanj, what are you drinking right now?
I got unfortunately a Bud Light.
That was me last night. Man.
I had a Blue Moon, but it went missing somehow. So
someone was like, "That's a great beer. I'm gonna take that."
Yeah. It wandered. It walked out of the fridge. So
What type of beers do you typically like, Sanj? Do you have like a few that you like, or you're not really into beer?
I like Blue Moon. I like Pacific Rim. I like Stella's okay. I'll drink Stella. It's nice.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. You were probably one of the first people that put me on a Blue Moon, because Kyle tried putting me onto it for like a minute, and I'm not gonna lie. Like, just in the beginning, it was not really. Granted, though, I wasn't that big into beer to begin with, but that was not like a beer I was like heavy into. But like over the years.
Did you have it with the orange slice or no?
Well, no. But okay, so the first time I had Blue Moon, I didn't have it with the orange slice, and then like I think the second or third time I bothered to try it, I was feeling adventurous, and I was like, yo, fuck it, I'll have it. But I was at a restaurant, and then they give you the orange slice with it, which like totally changes that drink. I mean, granted, I'll still drink it out of the bottle, no orange, but it definitely helps.
It's nice, yeah.
Oh yeah, 100%. What do you got, Rob?
That's good. I got the same thing that I had in the last episode. I'm still drinking some Fat Tire. So that Amber Ale, it's 5.3 alcohol, but it's a great beer. I love this thing. I could drink a bunch of these, or I could drink a couple, whatever, they're just great. I love them. This company, New Belgium, I recommend this brand. Like, most of what they make is very good.
Dude, so this is actually a Nyack beer, local Nyack. So, closer to home for you, Rob.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, it's Mad Fat Homies Interboro Spirits and Ales. It's an IPA, usual shit that I drink. So this is a collaboration beer with one of my favorite tap rooms, Beer Noggin. I talked about it in that first episode. Shout out to them. They're amazing. Super great environment. Can't wait till this whole thing's over with. And they're open back up. Definitely something you should go and check out. Yeah, right in Bronxville. They also have one in Mount Kisco. So you should definitely go and check them out if you're watching this, if you're in the local area. New York.
You're in New York or the Tri-State.
Yeah, definitely. They're the place. But so this is like a collaboration beer they did. I'm kind of reading off the back here. It says brewed exclusively for our friends at Beer Noggin, Mohawk Tap Room, Trout Industries, the local Nyack and Harlem hops. So locally sourced. That's always cool. I always dig the beers that are like local. Like that's always really cool for me, because then it's like it's in your own backyard. Like you're having beer that people close to you are making, and I don't know. It's just that's definitely a nice sentiment for the beer, but it is really good. I'm having it now. I'll actually give you
a review,
a taste run through. Yeah, my little review. So it's just really smooth. It's not like, even for the dank beers, sometimes they're smooth, but a lot of them, they're just, that's how you describe them. You describe them dank. They're just like a little heavier and shit. I'm usually into that. That's more like my flow, but yeah, that's really good, man. It's like super smooth. It feels a little bit lighter. It's still, it's on the heavier side, I'd say, but yeah, that's a great beer, bro. I don't want to rag. I don't want to keep trailing on about this, because I could go on about this beer for fucking ever. We'll go right into it. So the first game that we have on the list today is the one and the only Jak and Daxter. The original, obviously coming out for PlayStation, one of the earlier titles. Rob has this pulled up. It's the wiki. that we had pulled up. We had a bunch of them.
Came out in December 2001. Look at that.
Yeah, so that's really early into the the PlayStation's life. I mean, more or less, it was around that kind of the same era. And I think I'd say, off the bat, this game really, I think, established a lot of what to be expected from those first party titles for PlayStation. I think they followed a lot of the same trends with even games like Ratchet and Clank, which I'm sure coming into this, next gen, they're probably going to drop another title. I would see definitely another installment for them. They
Well,
usually do
Ratchet
that.
and Clank is Insomniac, right?
Yes, Insomniac. This is Naughty Dog, which
Yeah.
Naughty Dog being obviously a very popular topic company right now. But oh,
Yeah, we're lagging a little bit.
yeah, dude. I think this was like a huge game for them, man. I think this was really big.
Yeah, I think, it's kind of funny too. Like when you think of Naughty Dog now, you think of Uncharted, you think of like these big, heavy storyline games, you think of The Last of Us. So it's kind of crazy that like this is what they were doing back on the PS2, and like everybody loved it. And I'll be honest, I didn't even play the first one. I played the second one. That was the one that I really played and loved. It was kind of open world, and it was almost like a Grand Theft Auto for kids. Is kind of how I thought of it when I was that young, because you could like drive around in these vehicles and get into fights, and it was open world. And yeah, the characters are really cool. The art style was really cool.
This was like a huge progression, though. That was a huge progression for them, man, because they didn't like. You think about it when you talk. Yeah, and Jack and Daxter wasn't like you didn't have any of that. Jack didn't talk. Yeah, there was no like personality to the character other than like his actions, which I think was kind of cool, leaving him kind of ambiguous. And I'm just thinking about this now. I'm sorry, I said PlayStation. I was meaning to say PS2.
Yeah.
But I meant PlayStation as a whole. I think this game did a good job at like solidifying them. So.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Jack Racing X.
Oh yeah. Up until that point, this was like probably one of the best series.
This was the one I played. So I played Jack 2, and I thought this game was freaking awesome. I love this game.
That game was unforgettable. That game was that was such a fun story playthrough, honestly.
So funny thing about this, actually, I was the other day when I was on my little adventure through the PS or the PlayStation Store, whatever, the PSS. I was looking through and I found they have like a trilogy series, or actually a quadra series for this game. So they have all Jack 1, 2, and 3 and Jack X Racing, which I'm not going to even go into that one. I'm not interested in that one, and I'm not going to say that that's even an incentive to buy this. But I think it goes for like $30. It's on the store, and you can buy the trilogy for the games that actually matter. Jack and Daxter, Jack 2, and Jack 3. Jack 3, I got to be honest, when you started getting into the light ego, like that game was incredible. I thought that was so cool, having different kinds of power-ups and different things you could do.
I mean, honestly, the desert was the best part about Jack 3.
What do you mean, though? Like in what way?
With the cars that you get to upgrade over time, and then you get like the extremely like powerful ones, like the Warhammer, Rhino, or whatever. And like you would just go through the desert, and there would be like marauders and shit. So you could just like literally spend all day like just fucking hanging out, like finding new areas and shit.
You mean like the just the openness of having that in a game, like just
having that desert section that you can like just drive in. There was just so much like areas you can like check out. Like every time you go around the map, like people attack you and shit. It was just like as a kid, it was like an area you can just endlessly like be at and always have fun.
Yeah. No, I agree, man. 100%. This was such a good game, dude.
Well, let's talk about. Well, actually, finish your thought, and then I have another thought.
Oh, actually, I mean that was really more or less that was really my only thought. I was just gonna say this. It's just like I don't know, like seeing this cover art for the game. It just floods my mind with memories, and I'm like, wow, dude, I remember how good and how even being as young as I was, you just. And even now, like no matter then or now, I'm just playing this game because I've picked it up a couple times in the past, like, within, I wouldn't say the past couple of years, but definitely beyond the point that I originally played it, and just playing them again, I was like, wow, you just can't help but remember how good the game was,
Yeah. Well, here's what I was going to say. So we're talking about games we'd like to see them rebooted or game series. So let's say PS5's coming out. Naughty Dog's about to finish up The Last of Us 2. Actually, I think they finished development on it. It would be kind of cool to see them do a new Jak and Daxter game. I think that'd be freaking awesome. I mean, imagine with the new hardware what they could do.
The thing that comes with that, with rebooting the series, is are we getting Jak and Daxter and they're going to try to start the series from the beginning, or are we getting Jak 4? Like,
I would almost say you could go either way, right? I mean, I feel like I would prefer maybe Jak 4, but if they wanted to reboot it, that could be kind of cool too.
Because the truth is, like, and it's like what they did with the Ratchet and Clank reboot. If we get the Jak and Daxter reboot and it's like, the original story and they're retelling it and everything's upgraded, that's going to be more centered towards kids. And that for me might be a problem. Like if it's just more of a game that's more streamlined to like have aesthetics that are like more like kid friendly and like try to get this younger generation to get on. If we get Jak 4 in my head, because like if you think about it, Jak and Daxter went from an E game to a T-rated game. Yeah. And then the dialogue, the violence, the characters dying, like things got a lot darker as the series progressed. I think they should jump to the M rating. I feel like if they jump to the M rating, then they would get the adult fan base. I feel like they took way too long and like sitting around and just kind of waiting. And then they released the HD remake and the collection series. And now I'm just like, your fan base is like 15 years older now. So like you got to try to appeal to us or go for like the kid fan base. Like you're not going to get the in-betweeners, honestly.
I mean, it kind of has to be one or the other, I guess, right? I mean, I agree with you. I think Jak 4 makes more sense. I don't know about the M rating thing. I think that's a really cool idea. I just think they might be a little skeptical, but I think it does make sense. All of the people that were into those games are at that M rating level now, like they would enjoy it probably exploring and not being limited to that teen rating.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing too. That's a huge limitation. So like when Sanj, that's actually a really good point. Like how, you talk about how they went from an E-rated game to a T-rated game. And of course they always had, like hints of, they'd make jokes and stuff like that.
Innuendos and stuff maybe.
Yeah, there was definitely, yeah. So it was hinted. But I think the thing is when you talk about the games and their ratings, it's like, if you jump from an E to a T, it's like you're opening yourself up to so much more. I hate to say it, but it is true. It's just that you're not as limited, you're not as confined because you have to meet certain standards to be lower on the grade scale, let's say, for the ESRB rating. But I think if they were to make that jump, I could see it happening. And you're right, because now we're talking about how many years in the future. But I think the main issue is that you're saying like, well, they wouldn't really be able to attain the in-betweeners. It would be one or the other. You're either appealing to your prior crowd or you're appealing to a new crowd. I don't know. I don't know if that would. I think they would try their best to create something for the in-betweeners, because as a series that, if Jak 4 had come out. Well, what time did Jak 3 came out? Jak 3 came out in 2004?
Yeah, definitely something around.
I think they said, I was surprised. They said it came out a year after Jak 2, which is insane that they developed it that quickly.
Yeah, that's kind of unrealistic.
Yeah, I mean, and it was a pretty good game. I didn't play 3, but based on what you guys were saying, it was a pretty solid game. Came out, November 2004.
Okay, so 2004. Now we're 16 years down the line.
Like, bro, we were in 6th grade when Jak 3 came out. Like,
oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, that's like ages ago.
No, and okay, so that's the thing, right? I mean, like, I think as a series, and that's what I was trying to say, like, if Jak 4 had come out at, let's say, in 2005, 2006, you know what I mean? Then it would be easier to make the jump to just say, hey, fuck it. We're going to go for an M-rated audience. That's our demographic, because these are the people.
I got one question though.
We were in 3rd grade when it came out because we were 9.
Yes.
I don't know why it's in 6th grade.
Yeah, but still very.
Well, here's one thing I would say. So, like, think about a game like Zelda. Like that game, like everybody grew up with Zelda, but like they don't ever have to go to an M rating because it just works. Like I feel like I could see both sides.
There though, because they do like M-rated shit and E-rated games and get away with it. Like the shit that
Zelda
they pull off and get away with
is
like those literally have Ganondorf bleeding and fucking Wind Waker, and I'm just like, how do you get past this rating? Like this makes no sense.
Well, I mean, But also,
I hear you.
I think it would only be. I agree, though. It's kind of unfair because you're talking about Zelda, and like Zelda's been around forever, so they don't have, and they keep making games. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, it would be easier for the company as a whole, and I'm not even saying just to make the jump to M, but I'm saying it, as a whole, it'd be easier for them to be more flexible with how they go about their games if they had continually put out new things. I think the only thing past Jack X Racing was Daxter, which was where you played
PSP?
as Daxter for PSP.
Was it? Yeah, PSP.
that was
I
like
think
a
I remember
bundle
that.
combo game.
But
I had a PSP. I liked it. It wasn't too
was
bad.
pretty good.
I didn't play that. I didn't play that game though.
But no, man, I just feel like it's
like clanking.
What were you saying, Sanj?
It feels like in Ratchet and Clank when you do those side like Clank missions, like if you just made that a whole game with Daxter.
Yeah, and that it wasn't a great one, but no, but anyways, kind of just going back, I just feel like if you're talking about their flexibility as a company, I think it would be unfair to compare. Like, you're right, is what like Rob, you're 100% correct that Zelda doesn't have to go and jump so far to create something very worthwhile and great and amazing. I mean, they literally on almost every single home console game that they've released, they've scored almost a 10 out of 10 every time. It's always a masterpiece. So you're right. But they've always done a great job at still just releasing something every time a new console comes out. Every time, like something on the handheld for a very long time, they were good about that. So, but with Jack, it's like, dude, you're coming back from a 16-year hiatus. How do you jump back in from that?
I mean, I would just say, look at Star Wars. Like, Star Wars is never going to be R-rated. So you could have two different camps. You could have people that would say, you know what, that teen rating's perfect because it's like we don't have the cursing, we don't have vulgarity, we don't have sex, we don't have all these other things. But at the same, I could see both sides because if you leave it at a teen rating, I think there'd be a bunch of people that were totally happy with it and it would work. But I could also see, like you're saying, making that M jump. Now we have blood and gore. Maybe we have some more, risky humor because the game always had a lot of humor in it. That's part of what people liked about it. So maybe you could have more risky humor in it. So I guess I could see it either way. I think here's what I will say. I think it would be great for them to bring it back because it's been so long. So I think you generate some serious buzz by bringing that series back. And then you have the PS5 coming out soon. And Naughty Dog's been doing Last of Us and Uncharted and all these kind of serious movie kind of style games. I think it'd be kind of cool to see them go back to the roots and make a game like that,
That's what, yeah. That'd be
really I think Jack 4, would be, and that's the thing too. You could reboot it kind of like they did with Ratchet and Clank, but I agree with Sanj. I think it'd be better. I'd rather see Jack 4. Like, let's pick up where we left off. Maybe they're a little older. Maybe they're more grizzled. Like there's a lot they could do with it.
Also, too, like the point that you're playing Jack in like Jack 2 and Jack 3, he's like I don't know. I think he's like 18, 19. He's like a badass, but
he didn't hit puberty until he got to Jack 2, where now all of a sudden he could talk. And then Jack 3, he's like more of a fucking badass.
Mm.
Yeah.
So, his balls drop and he becomes the man.
Yeah, he's finally ready for the world.
But my last, I know we've got to move on to the next one, but my last thing on this is like, how do you feel if we're just gonna get a Jack and Daxter experience that's a single linear like playthrough? Like yeah, maybe there's some open world elements, but it's just a story mode. Like, because I feel like honestly, like it's time Naughty Dog kind of transitions more to online.
That's something like, well, actually, this is something me and Shoei have spoken about with Xbox versus PlayStation. Because if you look at PlayStation, all their major exclusives, they're always single-player games. And then you look at games like for the Xbox, whether it's Halo, whether it's Gears of War, even Fable later on with Fable 2 and 3, they always have co-op in their story modes. So they always allow you to go through that story with someone. And that's part of why I think I kind of always preferred the Xbox a little bit. Don't get me wrong. I think a lot of these games, especially this generation, like PS4 has so many better exclusives. 360 and PS3, you can kind of argue a little bit. This, I think it's pretty clear the exclusives are better on the PlayStation 4, in my opinion, I think in a lot of people's opinions. But that is one thing that's lacking in Sony exclusives, and that would be very cool to see. Maybe one person can play as Jack, and the other person actually plays as Daxter. And if you want to play by yourself, go for it. But maybe
Yeah.
for people that want some co-op, throw some co-op. Give us some co-op, man. I would love
Like,
to see that in Sony games.
like there's so many mercenaries in that series, like there's other characters that are like support characters or whatever that help you through the story. So like if you
Mhm.
made like a 16-player multiplayer online with those characters and like made like classes, like I feel like yeah, we kind of need that now because we're going into like the next generation of gaming and like I'm someone who's big on like I used to love story games, but I feel like nowadays they just don't hold up when you have so many other games that offer a story and an online experience.
Yeah, no, that is true. I mean, and that's kind of, we touched on that a little bit in our last episode when we were talking to Brad, and we were kind of going over, uh, the multiplayer experience of a lot of games and how important that is. But I will say I could agree with that 100%. I think if you have a game that offers a really good campaign, whether that's cooperative or not, like you have the option of split screen or you don't.
But forget
And
even split screen, online co-op too is what it doesn't
yeah,
have to be
that's
split
fine.
screen.
No, that's
Yeah.
true. Yeah. Like either way you look at it, I think any game that can offer that, and like I said, even without that, even if you didn't have that as an option, it was just straight single player campaign. I think that's enough as it is. And then when you really stack a good multiplayer experience on top of that, it makes it hard for other games to compete, which is I think even more of a testament to the games that are just doing single player that are doing so well, like Zelda. Games that have been
God of War,
yeah,
Spider-Man.
God of War,
Yeah.
Spider-Man, yeah, like games that just offer such an expansive storyline experience. I think is going to be that's going to be a lot harder to compete with.
All right, so for our next game that we'd like to see rebooted, we're going with. Oh, actually, damn it, the wrong one's pulled up.
That's fine. No, I mean that's okay.
All right, so you know what? We'll go with Fable. So, here I want to ask you guys. So, have you either of you played Fable? I think Troy, you said you've played it, right?
I played Fable 2 and 3. I played
2 and 3. Oh, so you didn't even play the first one. Okay, Sanj, have you played them?
I'll be honest, no, I've never played them. I've heard good things, but never played the series.
Yeah, so pretty much it's like a fantasy action role-playing game. And it's, like you're set kind of in this medieval kind of looking area. And the really cool thing about the game was that the game gave you freedom in playing however you wanted. So you could play kind of evil or you could play good. And literally by towards the end of the game, your actual body, like the way you physically look is being reflected on the choices you make throughout the game and how you play it. So you may have devil horns growing out of your head and weird cracks in your face and scars, and you look evil if you're evil. Or if you're really good, you're literally going to be running around with like this halo and you have like light hair and like blue eyes and like so not only was the game a very fun game, the combat system was very good, the story was very interesting and cool. Pretty much everything about the game. I love the setting, the artwork, everything. But that was something really cool and something new and fresh at the time. So this game came out in what year? 2004. So this came out quite a while ago. And when this came out, to be able to have this game reflect your choices made was just such a cool feature. You could get married in the game. You could buy like houses and like there were
very close to
weird things
Oblivion.
in the game.
It was very close to like Oblivion or a Skyrim, but in like a third-person setting.
Yeah, it was kind of like that. It wasn't as open world. Like it was kind of open world, but like there was kind of just areas you travel from. But it was fine. It was like you didn't need that super big open map. It was open in the choices you made in different areas you could go to. But it was kind of like maybe let's say an alternative. I mean, we didn't have Oblivion at the time. We did have Elder Scrolls. I think probably Morrowind was the last one when this game came out. At the time, which was very open world, but this was kind of streamlined, third person, cool storyline. I think you had a narrator in the game that would like say stuff depending on how you were playing.
I think you're right.
Correctly. It was a really cool game, and so you played 2 and 3. What did you think about 2 and 3, Troy?
Well, I'll say the same thing that you said. That it was a really nice thing to see, especially being on the Xbox. That was one of I think their best exclusives. That's serious potential for Reboot. When you talk about 2 and 3, even or even the first one, I think the main thing to take away from it is that, you know, Xbox is as a console throughout their entire lifeline, um, they've been dedicated to making, at least I feel, very good online multiplayer games. Whether that was Halo, whether that was Gears of War, anything, they made very good multiplayer games. I think as a console, that's what they've kind of based themselves around. That's the audience and the demographic that they're trying to reach. To have a game like this, so much in the realm of a game like Naughty Dog, kind of like a more, not realistic, but just mature audience kind of game, storytelling game. That was refreshing for me, and I had a lot of fun with those, both 2 and 3. I think, like you said, having the option of choosing the route that you're going down, you can kind of be in the middle and not have really any of the effects. But if you choose to really go down the good path or the bad path, seeing the differences between those two, and I don't know. For me, that was a really game-changing kind of experience, especially for the Xbox. So.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. Like, even some here, I'm getting reminded right now, like even in Fable 2. So Fable 2 kind of had a mixed reception for sure, because they had a co-op mode, but it was like someone would tag along with you. They couldn't bring their character into the game, so it was kind of a bummer in that aspect. They also had a cool aspect of where you had a dog.
Yes, I remember that.
This was like a big deal in the game. So the dog would kind of teach you where to go, would help you fight. The dog could even die in the game. And I think there was only one way to, if your dog died, I think if you beat the game, you were able to kind of like save the world or bring your dog back. I think that was like part of the storyline in Fable 2, if I'm remembering correctly, which was kind of cool. But Fable 2 got a lot of
millions of people or bring one dog back.
Yeah. And that's what was cool about the game. They kind of let you do what you wanted. You could be a monster, or you could do the right thing, or like he said, in between somewhere. And like even jobs, like you could split wood and make money in this game, from what I remember. You could buy houses and like rent them out and become kind of like they had just cool, weird stuff in this game. But I always loved the universe and thought it was fun. Fable 3 was pretty good, and it actually had better like real co-ops. You'd be kind of bringing your actual character in, and I think part of what they had too, and I think at the beginning of the game, were you like twins or something, or I don't know. I can't remember with Fable 3. It was kind of like Fable 2 perfected. That's kind of what it was, which it kind of got hate for that too, because it wasn't like, quite enough in some people's eyes. It was kind of just like correcting everything that was wrong with Fable 2. But
okay, I think series need that sometimes. So, franchises need an ability to kind of.
I feel like people like to complain about everything. You know what I mean? I think that's kind of what happened with Fable. It became cool to hate on. Peter Molyneux, who was the lead game designer of Lionhead Studios, the guy who made the game, he would always overpromise and underdeliver, and people got sick of it. And that's kind of what happened. So he would come up with all these crazy promises of cool things that he wanted to do in the game. And even though he delivered, let's say, even if he delivered half of them, instead of being like pumped, like, yeah, you delivered on at least half of them, like they're really cool, everybody seemed to be very negative and hypercritical and be like, well, you didn't quite deliver on these things. And I don't know if I kind of feel bad for the Fable series, especially 2 and 3. Fable 1 got a lot of love, but Fable 2 and 3 were kind of mixed. And I think they were very good games, and I love the universe. And I think Peter Molyneux, I don't know if he retired or what he did after that, but I think he was kind of done with the gaming industry, because they could be, again, I love the gaming industry. I love the fan base. I love everybody. But like, they can be your best friend or your worst enemy. And I've talked about that before. Like the gaming community can be like, they could just turn on a dime, and they could be really, really nasty sometimes. And sometimes it's justified and it's good. And then other times
it's very unfair though. Sometimes, I mean, and that's for a lot of series. I mean, series face the fate of like not having the reception or not having the backing, and that can potentially ruin the series as a whole. I mean, I'm sure that's probably what happened with Fable. Over time, you're promised X, Y, and Z. You only get X, if that. And the game ends up being delivered on a whole different angle. And that can be hard, especially for core fans, for people that are expecting a certain amount. I mean, I felt that with games before. I felt that with games like Pokemon, as a very core series. I've been following that game since the day I was born, pretty much. And just seeing a lot of the changes they brought in, seeing certain regulations and certain protocols they've kind of followed. I mean, you know, and that's strictly just in making new games. I feel like, I don't know, I've been let down for sure. You know, I've had upsets.
Oh no, there's two sides to it. I just was kind of trying to touch on, like, I feel like it kind of got a little bit more hate than it should have.
No, and that's what I mean, though. That's what I mean. Like, even as a person who's been disappointed, I can't say that I would ever want the company to like cease or be like, hey, you know, you didn't do this, unless it really got to that level. And hey, for maybe some harder Fable fans, they probably did feel that way, and they were like, you know what, you said you were going to do this, and we kept expecting this, and it never happened, or you never followed through.
Yeah. And there was, I mean, that happened. I mean, I'm not going to defend the guy. I just think it's kind of a shame. Like, I feel like if he had really stuck it out and stayed with that studio, we probably would have had another Fable by now, and it probably would have been a pretty good game.
So let me ask you this, Sanj. You know, you never played the game, right? But based on what you're hearing, how would you imagine something like that going into, you know, we're talking about the next generation of consoles and what's possible. Obviously, a lot of this is going to be on Unreal Engine 6, and apparently, based on leaks that I was talking with Rob and Brad about in our last episode. What's that?
You mean Unreal Engine 5?
Or 5. Yeah, 5 or 6. There was, like, with what's possible pretty much in terms of graphics and you know, capabilities. How could you see a game like that, and now even more so in a multiplayer-based following, I think for the most part, how do you see that working? What would you see that being? Like, how do you think they would execute it?
The good and bad consequence reminds me a lot about, like, Undertale. And even Undertale is not like it's a PC game. It's not really even, like, it became cross-platform as, like, a cheap download or whatever. But I feel like that game did really well because it had a lot of, like, secret Easter eggs. It had a lot of, like, hidden lore in it. It had a lot of, like, you know, the post quest and, like, doing the genocide route and doing, like, the pacifist route was, like, really hard. So I feel like Fable, like, if they went with that approach again, which they already have, and they came back into, like, the main media and they were like, hey, like, we don't have multiplayer, but we do have co-op. And guess what? Like, we have a lot of different variables. So, like, if I'm good and my friend's bad, we have even more quests that we can do. And if you just keep opening up, like, the optionality, like, of, like, okay, playing with this good and bad scheme to, like, have the game open up and become, like, different games with, like, characters changing dialogue and, like, the whole world around you changing depending on your decisions, people would fucking love that. Because people ate Undertale, and Undertale was an underdeveloped, like, one-man kind of, like, game. And that game was, like, I think it had, like, a 50,000 budget or some shit, or I could be completely wrong on that number, but it was a really low budget, and that game was a Steam, like, success, you know. And then all of a sudden it got onto the like Switch and PlayStation. So I feel like Fable would take, like, the kind of same route if they would, like, stick with what they did and kind of, like, appeal to, like, okay, people like games that change. You know, people like having consequences and decisions.
Mm.
No, it's true.
I think what he just said too, imagine that you're playing co-op, one of you is good, one of you is evil, so now you guys can play this world together and kind of maybe do different things. Like, maybe you have access to this area I don't, or this guild or this group that I don't. That would be kind of cool to see if they really, you know, emphasize the co-op, and maybe you play differently. Maybe you're kind of like, I'm going to be evil, I'm going to be good. That would be pretty cool too.
Yeah, because the thing with that is, like, let's say, like, me, you, and Troy get it, and we all play together, and we all go down the neutral route. Like, we're not good or bad, we're just, like, kind of in between. Then we all are like, oh shit, like, let's do the good route so we can face a certain boss at the end to get this item. So we all go good, and then in the end we all go bad. But the fourth playthrough, then it's like one of us could be good and one of us could be bad, and it's like that would be like the final playthrough. So that's like kind of having 4 games in one. And it's like you're not really, like, doing much. It's just mechanics, and you're just, like, altering, like, bosses and, like, encounters and dialogue.
No, that's true. I mean, that could having a combination of different outcomes, like, you know, and it could be in a variable of different ways. Like, you know, if he's 75% bad and this person is 25% good, you know what I mean? Like, it could be one of those kinds of things.
Yeah, like certain maybe certain NPCs in the game, like, they're not going to mess with you or talk to you or cooperate with you if you're too evil or if you're too good. So like,
Yeah, like Undertale's exactly
yeah,
like that. Like if you kill all the enemies in the area, like the NPCs will not even be in the town. Or like they'll be like, "Oh, I'm so scared of you, leave me alone." When before they're like friendly and they're like, "Oh, hi, how are you?" Like and they're
mm-hmm.
funny and shit. You lose that charm in the game and you make it a very dark game, and that's like fucking wonderful. Like you're like, "Yo, holy shit!" Like I really feel this change in this game. Or
Yeah,
like you
Mm-hmm.
said,
it
like
actually is
having the
effective.
dog die is like you know, it's like oh, it's just a dog in a game. But like I think anyone who has a dog could really be like, no, like I can't let my fucking dog die. Like having consequences that people relate to makes a game so much more effective.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think, hey,
100%.
let's talk about Mass Effect for a second, too. I think that's why Mass Effect was very popular. I mean, again, I actually never beat the third game because I heard so many bad things about it with the ending. I
Oh,
am one day going to play it, but that's why people love the Mass Effect series, is because you could be good or bad, and there were consequences to your choices, where I guess they may have messed that up in the third game from what I heard, but that's part of why people like Mass Effect.
yeah, and then even with Mass Effect, your save data goes on to the next game, so your
Yeah.
decisions make it like oh shit, this really was weighted and had made sense for the future. Like
Mm.
Which is why it's called Mass Effect.
Mm.
oh, I'm leaving, I'm done.
Nah, all right. Let me move this convo to our next title. I think are we? You know what? I'm gonna save that N64 game for later. I'm gonna put that in at the end because I know if
Okay.
anybody's looked at the tabs that we have open on these wiki windows, they
You
probably
already
already
know.
know. But
Yeah.
I'm not gonna go there. And now if I said it, they're probably gonna pay attention. But that's okay. All
Nah,
right.
nah, let's do it. I'm ready. I'm Little Caesars hot and ready.
You're
Okay.
ready?
All
All
right. All
right.
right. All right. All right.
Hold on,
Let's
Pete.
go.
I'm ready.
Let's
So
move on then.
what's our next game then, son?
I'm guessing it's Pokemon Snap.
Let's see. It might be Pokemon Snap. What do
Oh,
you take it off?
this is gonna be a whirlwind of shit, man. I'm not gonna lie. So I love the original. I played it as a kid. I came back to the game multiple times. I did the secret stuff, the like you know mountains that like made Pokemon so you can get the landmarks to unlock like facing Mew, like getting all like the points and stuff. It's an amazing game. And like let's be honest, like they under like so like we were saying before about fans complaining and like giving negative stuff. So like I believe the game had like roughly like 60 something Pokemon that you can take pictures of. So
Mm,
people were mad that like 88 Pokemon were not in the game. But honestly, I feel like because a lot of those Pokemon were evolutions and stuff, it doesn't really matter as much. Like the game feels very full with having what it has. Now, if we're talking about bringing this as either a remake or as a continuation, if we do the remake, I'm not interested. If we're just gonna do 151 like Kanto Pokemon, because we know the Pokemon series recently, it's just been Mega Evolutions, Kanto, 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 Gen 7, Kanto, 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 Gen 8, Kanto. It just gets a little. I get what they're doing. They're trying to get their old fan base, but if they went to make Pokemon Snap and then they made it the exact same thing, just with what the other 88 evolutions or pre-evolutions of Pokemon, I'm not buying it personally. Like I'm just like no. Like the original game is good, and my problem is if they try to like do it with okay, so like let's say if we go to the Galar region, the newest region, and we do it off of what the dex is for that region, the dex is about like 90 something Pokemon, I believe, and out of that 90 something, as of now, until more mythical event Pokemon come out, we have I think about like 4 or 5 legendary Pokemon. They're like something around or three or four, something around there. And in Pokemon Snap, having the legendary birds was like a huge fucking deal. Like having them in certain areas made the game so much better. And then
Yeah.
they had these weird like interactions to like try to get them to like come out of their eggs. Now it's like I just feel like with the new Pokemon with Gen 8, like going through the Galar region and taking pictures of the Galar Pokemon. Also, too, I just would not be like interested in just because the dex is so limited. It would just be like okay, I'm doing this, and in one afternoon I get through the whole thing, and that's it. So like my thing is if they do it in a way that would make sense, is I think as weird as it sounds, like I don't have anything against Pokemon Go, but I'm not a Pokemon Go player myself. But I know a lot of people like non-core casual and even like some hardcore people do play Pokemon Go. I think if Pokemon Snap was like integrated into that and it was like a live thing where like you go around and like okay, you have 151 but like they're new sprites and like you take pictures of them in the real world and then like just like Pokemon Go, every generation would eventually come out, and it would be like this whole different aspect of the already existing app. I feel like that would be more of like the direction they can go to. Because I feel like if Pokemon deserves like a reboot, besides like, they always have their trends of like doing the old generations, I think Pokemon Stadium, more than anything, deserves a fucking reboot.
Mm.
Well,
Wow, we
okay.
touched on a lot there.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I'll say this, right? So I agree with what you're saying about Pokemon Go, because that was actually one of the first things that came to my mind when we had talked about kind of the topics we were going to go over, the games, and when we had talked about Pokemon Snap. That was the first thing I thought of was, well, with all the integration with Pokemon Go now and what's available on, I mean, you can have the new Pokemon Bank or transfer system on your phone, Pokemon Home. Like there's so much integration there, and I think that's kind of the direction that the series moves in a lot of ways now. And I feel like if you're going to do that with the Switch being as handheld as it is, and really promoting that, they could make, I think there would be a huge market there. I think they could do a lot with that if they made it Pokemon Go based. If we knew that inevitably, like you said, we're going to get all these regions, it's going to be continually updated, it's going to be something frequent. I think that'd be a good idea for them. Like, being in the real world, taking real pictures with like real life backgrounds with Pokemon there and great sprite work. I think that could be really cool. And then maybe even uploading that to your Switch or doing everything off your Switch. I just feel like any way you cut it, there is a market there. I think it could be really cool.
My God, you know how much you'll pull in social media just from having that with like, all the pictures and everything. It's like people already put up stuff for Pokemon Go about raids and stuff on social media. But now if you had pictures and it's like, oh, I fucking selfie with a Jigglypuff Instagram, it's like, that's stupid shit fucking markets. And that shit works. Like people, it trends,
Yeah.
it catches on. Like
That's something I didn't even think about. Yeah, but I just want to say too, for anybody who doesn't know what Pokemon Snap was, it was an N64 game. It was pretty much like an on-rail experience. So you're kind of like on a little cart traveling through the level, and you're taking pictures of Pokemon. There's different sequences you can do where you get different Pokemon to do different things, and your goal is to get more points and to get like really good pictures of Pokemon. But what you guys talking about integrating it into Pokemon Go or making it a real world thing, yeah, I mean the marketability of that's insane.
Because I think anytime you can take a game and incorporate it into someone's daily life, you're gonna hit a demographic, and a very large one at that. Because like you said, Sanj, I mean, and it's true. People share things, all types of dumb shit, then you have this, and it's like, okay, well, it's something we already love, something that's very popular. Like, why not just put it into people's lives, even more so than Pokemon Go? Make incentives, make it a real life title, make it on the Switch, cross-platform.
Switch doesn't have a camera though, so wouldn't that, unless you just make a brand new game and you take the camera equation out and the real world thing out, because there's potential there too. Think about it. Like, let's say, forget the whole real world thing. If they were going to make another game, how do you think they should do it? Should it be on rail like the first game?
Well, you can even like, if you wanted to go down the route of like, if they made a tangible game, you can make it more of like an app for the Switch where it's like you have the monorail game and you have quests and stuff you can do, but it unlocks the Pokemon that you can find in the real world. So it like syncs with your phone.
Yeah.
So if you go to the real world, take pictures, go back to your game, play the core experience, but then that way it would spread it out so it wouldn't just be
That's a good idea, yeah.
Like, so, you have one afternoon, crack like 3 beers and fucking be done and be like, yeah, this shit's crap. Why'd I spend $60? But if you had the mobile experience, it's like, yo, bro, it's like, we got nothing to do. Let's go outside. Like, I'm down. I'll fucking take a couple pictures. We'll progress in the game. We get some reward we can use through, like, Pokemon Home. Like, and now you integrate it to the actual main series games. Like, hey, fuck it. I'm down. Like,
or maybe even extension of Pokemon Go. Maybe it's like a new addition to Pokemon Go and it's kind of built into Pokemon Go, maybe.
With your phones already having cameras, the integration's all there. So it's just like having it like connected to Go, like an add-on, like, hey, like, now if you never played Pokemon Go, like, try out Pokemon Snap for free. And it's like, obviously they'll have those stuff you can buy and like shit like that as you go along. But it would be a nice way to just get more people, because people are in that. Like, honestly, it's sad to say, I feel like more people nowadays fuck with Go more than they do the main series games. Main series games are like a lot of veterans, but like I feel like it's been phasing out. because now it's just like we're really in between the young and the old audience. Like there are some people who are core that are older, but they're really phasing out. And now the young, I don't really think they have the patience to be in like the competitive series. Like I know that like 10-year-old won recently for the regional tournament. And there's always younger kids that step up, but usually it's always like the older kids like Wolf Click or Ray Rizzo that like win tournaments.
Mm. Yeah, it's true. I mean, you definitely have to, and that's kind of along with the same argument we were talking about with, I mean, well, actually, as a matter of fact, we've talked about it in multiple cases with different titles, but it's the battle of trying to appeal to new audiences versus veteran audiences. I think Pokemon Snap wouldn't have to really wrap their heads around being a competitive so much, but that's the beauty of, like you said, with Pokemon Go. And so if you can make that something accessible within the game to an app on your phone, I mean, they're already starting to do things like that. I had brought up, Pokemon Home, and that's a new thing. You can have that on your phone and import Pokemon and do things. So, I think for a series, there's a lot of potential there. So real quick, before we keep going on, I'm going to, last time, because we're 20-something minutes in, I'm going to reset real quick. But as I do that, I'm just going to grab a beer just because I don't want to waste any of the video time doing this. I'm going to reset the room the second I get back up. So maybe like a minute or two. Not even, and then just hop back in. We'll go into number 3, 4, 5. We'll bang it out.
All right.
All right. Give me 1 minute. I'm gonna open back up. What is our next one, Rob? What is number 2?
Yeah, this is our next one. All right. You guys ready for this?
Yeah.
Splinter Cell. So
so good.
Yeah, I don't know what's the last one they made. Let's see. Blacklist. That was the last one they made. So I played all the way from the first one, second one, third one, Chaos Theory, I think was the best Splinter Cell and one of the best games ever made. Personally, that game, when that game came out, like, let's see, Splinter Cell, Chaos Theory. Yeah, that came out in 2005. This game was literally, like, it blew my mind in every way. The graphics were absolutely nuts. The stealth gameplay, like, you could play it all different ways. Like, yes, it's a stealth game at the end of the day, but, like, they would allow you to play it a little more aggressive if you wanted to. You could kind of pick your loadout before you started the level, and every level had like a theme. Like there's one where you're in a boat, there's one where you're like sneaking into this cave, there's one where you're in like a mansion and you're like got to get into a safe. Like every level stood out and had like a theme and was so good. But the story was cool, the gameplay was amazing, the graphics were amazing. Like I'm not going to try to negate the first two games. They were great. I mean, you had, up until then, there wasn't many stealth games. You had Metal Gear, which was the most popular stealth game around, but they kind of brought it to the next level with, really being able to, they had light and dark meters and noise meters. So you want to be quiet. And it was really all about sneaking up on your enemy and getting in and out of that level as stealthily and as you could. And it was just such a good game. But like for me, Chaos Theory that game was so incredible at the time. It also had the Spies versus Mercenaries mode. So pretty much if no one has ever played it, it's pretty much one team are mercenaries, one team are spies. The spies are in third person, mercenaries are in first person, and the mercenaries are pretty much like security guards. You play on this online map, and your job is to guard these like 2 or 3 different spots on the map. And if you're a spy, your goal was to get and hack something off of one of those spots and then get out of the level and win. And it was just such a unique thing. And at the time with Xbox Live, you had Halo 2, you had some other games, but there wasn't an insane amount of stuff out there. So when this came out, like it blew a lot of people away. It was just something different. It wasn't like Rainbow Six. It wasn't like these like people just shooting at each other. It was like this stealth gameplay. Like the mercenaries had flashlights and they could shoot flashbangs, and like you could literally, if you were the spy, you could like jump off of stuff and land on their head and try to knock them out. Like it was just a ton of fun. Yeah, it was a ton of fun. And they also introduced in Chaos Theory the co-op mode. So there was actually a co-op mode where like it was so good, man. Like one guy had the red goggles, one guy had the blue goggles, and you'd go through this co-op level together, and you needed each other. Like this was not something you could do by yourself.
I remember that.
It was so good, man. I mean, they hit it out of the park. I think the series kind of fell off after that. So they had Essentials here, you could see, which was a PSP game. I never played that, so I don't know a ton about it.
I don't remember.
I think it was considered pretty good. But here's where I think they started falling off. Double Agent. So they decided we're going to make Sam Fisher, our main character in the game, he's going to kind of go undercover in prison, and he's going to get involved with this like terrorist organization, and then he's going to turn on them. And it was a cool idea, but the game just wasn't that great. And, it received a lot of hate at the time. They kind of started going a step in the right direction with Conviction. They kind of went like Jason Bourne, Jack Bauer. I think they were inspired by those things. So the story was pretty cool, but the gameplay became a lot more action oriented. So it was kind of stealth, but it was really about like running in there, gunning, jumping over people, meleeing them. Like you kind of lost the stealth a little bit. And then with Blacklist, so this was the last game, they went kind of back to the roots a little bit. The game definitely improved a lot. It kind of went back to the roots, but it still wasn't quite, let's say where because Chaos Theory kind of rose the bar just in gaming in general. I mean, the graphics at that time were mind-blowing. And then after that, they kind of they were done with it. And, and I mean, I don't know what this is saying or if there's anything in the works, but I haven't heard anything. Have you guys played this? What are your guys' memories of the game?
I haven't played most of those. I did play Chaos Theory. I do remember like what you're talking about with, I guess you're saying it was Chaos Theory. I don't really remember if it was. I might have played like another one.
Well, Pandora Tomorrow may have actually had, let me see. Did Pandora Tomorrow introduce the Spies vs. Mercs? It may have. Let me see here.
Well, I will say this. If, talking about that series as a whole, I think it'd be actually a lot easier for them as opposed to maybe some other, titles to come back. I think them being able to jump back in would be a lot easier than maybe, say a Pokemon Snap, even with an open market. Because I can say this, Tom Clancy games are always really good. They're always really well done. I always really have a good time with them. Splinter Cell, that dynamic of just being stealth and just doing your best to not alert people. And you're right, you have that in Metal Gear Solid, but even in Metal Gear Solid, you can take people on like straight up and win. And
it's kind of a quirky series. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, I love Hideo Kojima, but he's definitely got like some crazy story elements going on. And he was always more. What is it?
He has a Raiden run through scene naked in Metal Gear Solid 2 for like a chapter. So yeah, he's very fucking quirky.
Yeah. So this is more like Jack Bauer, like, but a lot more stealth. The first three games were super stealthy.
That's what I loved about the game.
Yeah.
I love stealth games to begin with, whether that's fucking anywhere from Sly Cooper to Metal Gear Solid to Splinter Cell. Dude, I love the aspect of, sneaking in, taking the harder route, not being noticed, like getting those crazy kills. Like, and I always love that about this series. And I think it has such a beautiful dynamic in that a lot of games don't have that. They don't offer that, or if it is, it's a feature. It's not something that the game's like predicated on. And this game was that. Your success was 100% based on that, and then also offering like a really good co-op, campaign. I think they killed it with this. I had such a good time with this game, man. And I think if moving forward, if we're talking about what's possible, what they would plan on doing, I think there's a lot of room for them to move around. Like I said, I mean, Tom Clancy as a whole has been really great with their titles. Rainbow Six Siege was a game I played for forever.
Ghost Recon.
Yeah, Ghost Recon was Grawl was a great game. But beyond just like what they're capable of, I would say too, this is a game that can make a serious comeback because it hasn't been around for such a long time, and people aren't expecting anything because the series was on a fall off. So at this point, there's no expectations made because there's not really a frequent fan base. Now
Well, I
it's,
think I
you
think
know,
the potential too, like you're saying, yeah, they've waited a long time, so there's a lot of people out there that have such fond memories of those games, and like I think all that anticipation, all those years of in between games, there's so much potential there. But the other thing is, I think if they go back to the roots, go back to the stealth gameplay. I'm not saying
yeah,
don't maybe have some cool melee system where like if you get mixed up, maybe you can do some cool melee moves and get people, but really emphasize that stealth. Get back to that stealth where I'm a freaking predator in the dark and I'm sneaking up on you and I'm slitting your throat and your buddy's walking over there and he doesn't even know I'm here. You know, like that's
that
what
was,
Splinter Cell was always about.
Just adding to going back to the roots. So I forgot. I think it was the 2006 game you said that like that's when they started to like go down. But
Yeah.
that game I realized out of all the games, that's the first game that they kind of went like, they weren't a first party. They were on the Wii. So I feel like that's the problem. Go back to your roots, because a lot of times when I like have arguments or debates with like Xbox fans about like, oh, Sony versus Xbox, it always comes down to the exclusive argument. And every Xbox fan always says, oh, Splinter Cell was one of the best exclusives ever. And honestly, like everything I've heard about it and everything like I've seen, and I've played like a little bit of it, like it is a perfect video game. Honestly, like it has a fan base that's enduring. Like people want the game to come back, and it really solidified the Xbox as a gaming console. So like Troy, like the other day, was bringing up to me about like how Xbox isn't going to really have exclusives anymore. They're going to be more third party, and like everything's going to be shared with the PC. Where PlayStation's really going to be the only thing that has first parties, unless Nintendo makes like a next gen console. So I think that would be a nice like E3. It's like, hey, because everyone's thinking, oh, Halo and stuff, but like, hey, take a hard left just out of nowhere. Just be like, oh, Splinter Cell available only on the next gen Xbox. Everybody would buy that shit.
yeah, no, it's
I
true.
mean, it's an interesting idea. I think the first one was on PC and Xbox, but from Pandora tomorrow to until all the other ones, I think they were on PS2, they were on GameCube, they were on the PC. But obviously, PC was good. I mean, running wise, graphics and everything. But definitely the PS2 and the GameCube versions were like nobody really wanted to pay them as much mind. It was really you were playing it on the Xbox, and that's something. Even though it's a Ubisoft Tom Clancy game, I'm sure they could work a deal with Ubisoft to make it. I mean, the first one, as far as I remember, unless they maybe later released it on the other consoles, but I know when it first came out, it was definitely an Xbox PC type of deal. And I feel like that would, like you're saying, man, that would be a draw because, and this is kind of a whole nother subject. Like me and Troy have spoken about this as well. You just touched on it with the whole, so PlayStation, you're getting a PlayStation 5 if you're a Sony guy. All the games are on there. You're not getting them on the PC. Xbox, you're in a weird spot because Series X is coming out. But now you have the new Halo Infinite. It's going to be on the PC. All these other games, Gears of War 5 that came out last holiday, that was on PC. So I guess it's a win-win for them because they're making money either way. So that's maybe how Microsoft looks at it. But it's hard for them to sell systems, in my opinion, if you don't have any exclusives. So that might be a really cool idea. Talk to Ubisoft, work something out, and maybe even Microsoft pays for it. Maybe they fund it. They give us a new Splinter Cell game. Maybe make it, even if it's on the PC, whatever. But you can't get it on PlayStation or Nintendo. Either way, if that was exclusive, even if it's not exclusive, even if it's on everything, I want a new Splinter Cell. I don't care. Either way, I would love to see what they could do with it.
Xbox game, it would be like people would buy it, people would love it, and people would be happy that the franchise is back. And that is actually a franchise more than anything. I hear constantly from multiple gamers, like in comments and like on videos and on reviews, and all they talk about is wanting to have Splinter Cell back. And I don't blame them. It's an amazing game. It really does need to come back. I think it's fallen off for so long that like they can make a deal, they can become maybe more exclusive. And like you were right, I've looked back at the wiki. So since they've came out, they've been across all platforms. So GBA, PC, PS2, Xbox. But I feel like it's even funny too. If you look at the Metacritic scores for all the systems, they have the highest scores on Xbox. So that definitely tells you that like these games were best experience by far was on the Xbox. Like
no, they definitely were. And I think the original Xbox was good at that. You're kind of like you said, they got to get back to the roots, Xbox. They got to get back to the roots because that's why people liked Xbox. The 360, I think, was really good. I think they hit a home run with that system. I thought it was good, but they did start losing their roots a little bit with the 360, and then obviously with the Xbox One, they totally went way too casual with the price point being $500, forcing you to get the Kinect. Also, their messaging before the system came out with you have to always be online and you can't like resell your game. I mean, they screwed up, and even before the system came out, they corrected all those things. But it didn't matter in the gaming conscious. Everyone was kind of like, "Screw you guys! You guys screwed up. We don't believe in you anymore. Like we're done." And that's why the
Sony counter ad where they made that thing of how to share games on the PS4, and it was like the two CEOs, and he literally hands them the game, and the commercial just ends, and it was like, "Can't do this on Xbox," and it's like, hey. They had to accommodate to that. They had to make it so that you can game share because people are like, no, that's ridiculous. You can't.
Well, what's funny though is like by the time those systems came out, they were the same in that aspect. Xbox bailed on all those things they said, but it didn't matter. Everybody heard what Xbox was planning to do, and they didn't like it, and they were like, "Screw you, Xbox," and they gave the middle finger to Xbox. And honestly, in my humble opinion, I think Sony was going to do the exact same thing, and they saw the backlash that Xbox received because they saw the press conference, and their press conference I think was like a day or two later, and they were like, "Oh shit, we can't do this, guys! Look what's happening! Everybody's turning on them." And they're like, "Yo, let's say we're gonna do everything right, and then we're gonna come in at a lower price." And they had a home run, they had a grand slam. And
think about the commercial; it's so simple. It's just a one shot with like two CEOs just standing and talking. It's like two lines, so it's like they literally could have saw the conference. Made that commercial in one day, and then we were like, we're not doing game share. Like,
so here's what I would say. I think they capitalized on Xbox's mistake. I wouldn't even say that it was that they did anything impressive. It was that Xbox shot themselves in the foot. And then to back that up, Sony has just been investing since the PS3. They've been investing in these really good exclusive single-player games. And you put all those things together, and that's why the PS4 is so much more successful than the Xbox One. Whereas I think Xbox once they got Phil Spencer in there, I would say for the last probably 4 years they've been doing very well. But it doesn't matter. There was so much damage done early on that they're hurting from it. And now going forward, I think there's so much potential. But again, there's this weird thing where do I go Xbox or do I go PC if I'm an Xbox guy? Because maybe I'll just go PC,
My brother just won a game.
Nice. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, okay. So I'll say this as a closing thought. I think the tough part when you're talking next gen, and next gen is always going to come up, unfortunately. As much as I feel like we've jarred on about it for so long and just talked about all these, it just has to come up. And if we're talking about next gen, I think the biggest implication with all of generation consoles currently versus going forward, are they going to stick to, well, I guess the implication is that their entertainment systems, is that something that they stick with, or is that something that they drop? I personally feel like they shouldn't market themselves. And PS4 and Xbox One both sell themselves as entertainment systems. Because they do offer Netflix.
Well,
they do offer
Sony. It's Sony Computer Entertainment. That's literally what it's called. Yeah. The division that makes PlayStation, I think.
The DVD player first, gaming console second,
and then Blu-ray,
and then Blu-ray. PS.
Yeah, but my point is, we're talking about as a console. Okay, I think if you market yourselves as an entertainment console, that's fine, because all the people following you, all the Xbox fans or PS4 fans, are going to know whether or not you label yourself an entertainment console. It's a PS5. It's an Xbox X Series. So sure, you're always going to have your market there. They're not going to drop off. But I think, making yourselves based on that and incorporating all these features to try to accommodate the everyday person and be like, hey, well, we have to have Netflix. We have to have Hulu. It's great in theory, sure, but in reality, I don't think that's as for Xbox, you're coming out of a bad, and I'll talk specifically about them. You're coming out of a bad place. You're coming out of a lost race with Sony, and now you're about to put out a new system, which by the rumors have been saying that it's this next level type thing. I also heard some other rumors that PS5 is going to be running better than high tech PCs currently.
I don't know. All the specs, most of the specs are out. I think the Series X is more powerful from what I've seen. It has a better graphics card. I think it has better RAM. They're somewhat close, but if you look it up, maybe while you're talking, I'll look it up. But they already released their specs. The Series X is going to be more powerful. At the end of the day, that crap doesn't matter. Look at Gears of War 5. Look at like some of these Sony exclusives. They all look amazing. Who cares? But
Yeah,
it's really about the games you deliver,
well, but that's kind of going back to the argument of like, do you buy an Xbox because you're an Xbox fan, or do you buy an Xbox pragmatically, which is is going to come down to, do you want the best gaming experience, or are you just playing the game for? Yeah, so if we're
Xbox
being,
offers Blu-ray, right?
hmm?
Xbox has Blu-ray, right?
Yeah,
they've had Blu-ray since they came out. They needed it, man, because you can't fit all that on a DVD. It's too much. These games are all like 20, 50 gigs. They're all such big games now.
Yeah. I just feel like Xbox doesn't appeal. Just go as a gaming console. I feel like people don't really need Xbox for an entertainment console. Like the entertainment is just an extra. I feel like Sony just was more centered towards entertainment because they started the whole, your game console's a DVD, and then that kind of has stuck, and they've just been trying to improve on that. So I feel like Xbox should just be like, hey, this is for gamers. Like, this is the reason you should play Xbox games over the PC games, because it's tailored and better for gamers.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing too. I think they shouldn't market themselves as entertainment systems. We all know I can get my Netflix, my Hulu, all these other things on there, and I want that. I mean, I use it all the time. But don't market that. And I don't think either of them are going to market it as like, this is what we are. No, they're going to market the gaming because they know that's where it's at, man. But yeah, like if you look at these are the stats right here. So this CPU will clock to 3.8 gigahertz. The PlayStation 5 will go to 3.5. The graphics are 10.28 teraflops on the PlayStation 5. They're 12.16 on the Xbox Series X. They have the same RAM, a little bigger SSD on the Xbox than the PlayStation. They're definitely comparable, but the Xbox kind of edges it a little bit.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Either way, they're going to be very comparable. They're going to put out amazing games that look amazing. Like that's just a given. And PC is always going to make them both look like crap. So
so now that we're kind of centered back towards our original conversation, let's talk our number one, because we ventured far away from that. We haven't talked about our number one.
Does Sanj know what our number one is?
I'm trying to remember, man.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't even say it's our number one, because
I don't know if this list for me. I don't know if this list is in order, but these are the games that I definitely want to see reboots for. And we'll have honorable mentions maybe if we think of other stuff at the end. We'll maybe go over some of those quick.
Okay, so the number one, or the last one you're going to hear of, that's Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic.
Oh, this is going to be a good one.
Yeah. So someone else take it off. Someone else start us off here.
I'm just going to say, like, this game, like, let's not even talk about Star Wars games. Like, because bar none, this is the best Star Wars game that is out there. This shit's on Battlefront, honestly. Like, this game has way too much. And if we're not even talking about as a Star Wars game, as a game in itself, this game is just, everyone agrees this is beyond perfection. This game is an endless, like, quests are changing. Like, you're actually, like, your consequences have an effect on the real world. Like, this game is endless. And honestly, like, this game is one of the most successful video games, period, of all time. And a lot of people, if you don't know, like, if you've never heard of Star Wars Knights of the Republic, like, look it up. Everyone agrees unanimously this game is just way too good. You don't even have to like Star Wars, and you will love this game.
Yeah,
I know a lot
that's
of
a great
people,
point.
like personally me, like, I'm not really happy with the new series of 7, 8, and 9. And like, honestly, it's not even, you don't even have to like Star Wars, and you can play this game as a sole, like, just standalone game, and you will be beyond amazed. It has just been fantastic.
Yeah. 100% agree with you. Yeah, I think when this came out, people were kind of just blown away. I think kind of BioWare, they're the ones who made it. As far as I remember, it was BioWare, right? Who made this? Where does it say? Developer, yeah, BioWare. So
BioWare,
they
yeah.
carried over a lot of the same stuff to Mass Effect, and that's part of what made Mass Effect great. But this is where they had the foundation. This was the blueprint. This game right here, game, like you said, a game that your consequences matter, and we hadn't really seen that before. Like, this was a game where I could play kind of good or evil, kind of like Fable, like we were talking about earlier. But this game at the time, I mean, the graphics were amazing, the consequences, the choices you made, the stories, the characters, the worlds that you would play in. Just such an amazing game, and I think there's a reason why people still talk about it to this day.
I mean, if you're talking story mode, this game has the best Star Wars lore out of all the Star Wars games, and honestly, it's better than what was that game? The Force Awakens.
Force Unleashed.
Force Unleashed. It's way better than that side story that they made. This is like literally like what feels so good about this lore is it's all like just in the universe already. It's just it's just expanding on the existing universe and doing it so well that like it's just you'll love it. Like honestly, the game is just amazing.
Well, okay, so let me ask you this. Now, we're talking about obviously. Sorry, I turned my PS4 on. We're talking about the game reinvented, right? So now we're in the next gen, or let's say even currently this generation of consoles that we have now, PS4, Xbox One X, Nintendo Switch. Seeing this game reimagined, or reinvented, what would you do? You go by this? Well, and this is just my general curiosity speaking, but like, would you want to go down the same path? Like, would you just recreate the story, better graphics, better processing?
Like, go down the exact same path, but make it very limited. And what I mean by very limited, like one person co-op online, like kind of side quest thing to this game, to just have like a post game where like you can go on, like, okay, me and my friend are going to go on together and do these side quests that affect this like bigger thing. Just add that. And then why I say that is like this game can be ruined if you have a multiplayer that's too big, because then it's going to crash or it's going to have bugs and it's not going to do well, and you're going to take away from this amazing game. Make like a very limited like post game, like kind of like online like quest thing, but make it like exactly the same way it was, and it'll do amazing. People have been hyping this shit up for years. If this even gets teased at E3, people are gonna lose their minds.
Yeah, well, okay. So Rob, hold on, real quick. Why don't you scroll up a little bit, because you have those scores on the right there.
Yeah.
Dude, look at those scores.
It's ridiculous, man. That's what I'm saying. Near perfect or perfect scores all around the board.
Yeah, it's like kind of just unanimous. Everybody's like, yeah, this game is like amazing, literally amazing.
Yeah, okay. So Rob, I mean, have you played this? Have you played Knights of the Old Republic?
Yeah, I played it, and I played the second one. I think that was the last one, right? They just made I think they only made the 2.
Yeah.
And then what did they make Jade Empire or something like that after that? Maybe I don't remember what happened with BioWare. But yeah, this game series was so amazing, man, and it made you feel like you were in this world, and it made you feel like I'm creating my character and I'm making these choices and they're impacting this world, and like it made you feel like you were there, man, and that's what was amazing. And like Sanj was saying before with the storyline, I'm not going to act like I'm one of these Star Wars guys who knows everything about the story, but like I just remember because it's set like in the past, like way before any of the characters that we know, right? So, and you can kind of feel that kind of prequel vibe going through it. 4,000 years before the Galactic Empire, Darth Malak, and so all that. But it was freaking awesome. And like you said too, you don't even have to be a Star Wars fan. You could just go play this as like a sci-fi role-playing freaking experience, and it's just amazing, and it was great. And I think the potential for them to make a new one is, borrow all the great things from this game, borrow all the great things from the Mass Effect series, and now come out with a new maybe again, I'm almost going to go the same way I went with Jack. Let's get Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 3. Like, I don't want a remaster. I don't want like better graphics. Like, I want a new experience. Like, yeah, I want it to, spiritually be connected to the other games and this original game, but like I want a new experience.
I want to, I want to be in this timeline. I want to be 4,000 years, but I want to know that we progressed from like how great this game was, and that this new game is gonna like continue this lore and be that much better.
Yeah. And they've learned so much. I mean, look, BioWare put out Anthem, which actually me and Troy were talking about in a couple other episodes. And, I think the game got a ton of hates, a lot of it justified, but I do think there was some serious fun there. And I think they're a great developer. And I'd hate to see that developer go away just because they may have messed up or underdelivered on one game. So how amazing would it be if BioWare could come back and make this game? Like, I think EA still has the rights to Star Wars. So maybe they would, they'd probably be the ones publishing it. But, and I think Anthem is published by EA,
Anthem
right?
Anthem, for instance, like that's why for this game, I'm saying like stick to like a 2-player online co-op experience, because I feel like Anthem got ruined because they tried to make a game that works for a 4-player team and stuff, and it was just either underbalanced or overbalanced or just really had no purpose. Like it just at a certain point, like you're doing the harder missions and you're all standing like by a rock fighting a turret for like 20 minutes, and it's like this isn't really even challenging. This is just like game mechanics not done right. This is just not like
here's what I think they messed up on too, like the story. Like in Mass Effect and in Knights of the Old Republic, they're interwoven. So you're playing through the story and you're getting gameplay and fun levels, and like the story is it's going back and forth, where I feel like in Anthem it's like all the story is in the hub world, and then I go out to a mission and it has nothing to do with stories. Like I'm just running from point A to point B and I'm grabbing this thing and I'm grabbing that thing. And then I go back to the hub world to experience story. But when you're in the hub world, it's kind of boring. I'm just walking around. I feel like it's a chore for me to have to talk to 500 people to get new quests.
If the hub world was bigger and was more of the game and the online was less of the game, it would have been amazing, because it had everything there. If the lore was really there for that game, then people will be like, yeah, I really.
The lore might even be there. Like there probably is good lore, right? I just don't know it. I just don't know what it is.
It's decent, but it's so short-lived.
It's tutorial lore. It's just like, hey, move to waypoint. Hey, move outside. Hey, do something in this game. Like, and you know what? They could have really expanded, because BioWare is really known for their lore and like known for making games that like have amazing stories and stuff with that ripple and stuff. So they're just like, I feel like trying to appeal to like these online hype of like, battle royales and playing with people.
They were trying to compete with Destiny, from what I remember, right?
Yeah,
they were kind of trying to get in on that Destiny thing.
And look how Destiny did. Destiny flopped bad. Like people lost interest fast. Like there was in the same problem. There wasn't anything to do. So like when we connecting back to Knights of the Old Republic, what I would hate and I would hope never happens is if they go down the path of Anthem, where the whole lore and amazingness of this story is just a fucking hub, and then the online quests take up the whole game. That's not what I want. What I want is the whole game to be taken up by the lore and have the quest very involved, very story-based, and then have a very smaller world where it's online, but expands the world in a way where it's like, okay, it was worth doing that quest. It was worth talking to that NPC. It was worth finding out about this. Like,
well, more permanent effect too. Like if you had something that, and kind of like you said, like interwoven, like you had a campaign that actually affected your online experience or the things that you were doing with your friends and stuff like that. But something more simplified where it wasn't trying to be as expansive as it couldn't be. I think that would be a good idea. Like being able to, and even kind of like going back to our Fable idea, like, well, if you were to introduce a cooperative and you had, maybe I was good, maybe I was bad based on the choices we had made, kind of cultivating that into its own experience. That would be really cool to see a game, a game like Knights of the Old Republic, which was a really good game, and they really did. I'm sorry, excuse me. I just had some of this fat homie, this mad fat homie.
That's
no,
the name of the vape.
What, my vape is Jewel, man.
Oh.
No, I was talking about the mad fat homies, the beer. Okay. No, but like. I feel like with Old Republic, they did such a good job at just making a solid storyline. Like you said, just having a good lore and having any type of experience outside of the single player wasn't necessary. It was just that good. They made themselves on that.
So. And like we keep talking about co-op, and like don't get me wrong, I would love to see co-op in a lot of these games. But even if we don't get the co-op, like especially with a game like Knights of the Republic, if it's just single player, and they do it right, I'm okay with that. Now, if they figure out a way of doing co-op and it works, awesome. Like, I would love that, but really focus on just delivering a really fun story experience, a really great gameplay, a really good universe, and make me feel like I'm this freaking Jedi or I'm this Sith living in this, you know, prequel universe in Star Wars.
And that's the thing too, is Star Wars does such a good job already as a series, whether we're talking about the books or the movies or whatever. They've done an amazing job at creating the experience based on lore. You know, you can, and I think that's where a lot of that controversy comes into play when we're talking about the story, because people get upset, you know, whether it was episode 1, 2, 3, 4, or following. It's always about how that changed from the story, or how we diverged, or things missed, or, you know, there's always going to be topic for conversation there. But, you know, in terms of the game, like, it's all set there for you. So, and if they made it based on that, and they did a good job at delivering on the things that they say they're going to deliver for, and making it at least a part of that universe, I think they'll do okay.
But like Son said earlier, man, I think a lot of people, most Star Wars fans, think, you know, Knights of the Old Republic, following that lore and their execution of creating an experience with that lore was better than, let's say, the newest movies, in my opinion. I mean, we could probably talk an hour about the newest Star Wars movies, but I thought Force Awakened was good, and I was kind of excited for the next movie. And then after that, it was over. Like The Last Jedi, whatever it was called, was, to me, awful. And then I only recently, when they added it to Disney Plus, I saw this newest one, whatever that one's called.
Don't get me started.
Well, I saw it because it was free. I was like, I'm not going to the theaters after that piece of shit that I spent money on. I'm not spending money on this movie. So I watched it when they added it to Disney Plus, whatever it's called, the newest one, which like was a little better.
Back with no plot explanations, 3. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, like it was a little better, but it was still not good. Like, I feel like they ruined that entire trilogy. I thought Force Awakens like was not that bad. I thought like
it was a classic movie. Like, you couldn't be mad about it. It was like, okay, maybe you didn't like I was like a little bit weirded out by Kylo Ren. I was like, you don't live up to
yeah.
I
wasn't sold on Kylo Ren. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, but the story was there. Like, it was good.
Finn was cool.
Excited. And then 8, man, just like messed with me too much as a fan. Too many things that were grounded and very concrete about Star Wars. And like, that's when Disney starts to come in, and now this Force becomes magic. And now it's like, it's not the Force that we know from Star Wars where it's limited but can do amazing things. Now it's just Disney magic, and that's not cool with me.
Yeah, we could go. We'll probably go an hour if we really get into this. But either way, what I would like to say is that Knights of the Old Republic, I think, serve the fans and the lore better than these movies did. And how freaking amazing would it be if BioWare came out and they put out Knights of the Old Republic 3, and they freaking took all the great things they learned from Knights of the Old Republic and Mass Effect and all the mistakes they made with other games, and they deliver a freaking amazing, whether it's single player or co-op. Let's hope at least the single player. Give me that freaking amazing single player. If you find a way to make it co-op, cool. But man, I mean, there's such potential for that. That would be so good.
As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. If any of this was interesting to you, please consider leaving a like or a sub. For us, it means the world. If there's anything you wanted to say, any questions, any comments, leave that in the comment section below. If there's any games also too that we didn't cover, leave that for us.
There's going to be people who are going to be like, how the heck did you leave this game out? You know, so leave it below. Let us know what you think. Maybe we'll do another list. I think Sanjay was saying that too. Maybe we could do another list later on of games we missed, you know, other games that it would be great to see rebooted.
Yeah. So. As always, though, thank you, Sanjay, for coming by. Yeah, of course, man. And, you know, hopefully in days to come, we'll have him back and we can talk about some more games that need that reboot. And I guess that's until next time, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.
Peace.